Emerging victorious in the Battle of Wakanda, Thanos successfully used the Infinity Stones to eliminate half the population of the universe in a single snap. Among the called was Nick Fury, the man who led S.H.I.E.L.D. and created the Avengers Initiative, yet before disintegrating into dust, he reached for a special pager and sent an emergency message to Carol Danvers, also known as the superhero Captain Marvel, who at the time was helping other species far off in space. Once the message was received, she made her way to Earth, where Steve Rogers, Natasha Romanoff, James Rhodes, and Bruce Banner informed her of Fury's fate and of their missing Avenger comrades, who never returned from their mission to stop Thanos on the desolate world of Titan. Though Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Star-Lord, Drax, and Mantis were gone, Iron Man and Nebula survived, boarding the Guardians of the Galaxy ship Benatar to escape the planet, but ended up stranded without food or water and a lessening supply of air. After 22 days, Tony Stark recorded a farewell message to Pepper Potts before lying down to die, but they were then rescued by Captain Marvel, who tracked them down and brought the ship directly to Avengers headquarters on Earth. Determined to find the Infinity Stones and undo the decimation caused by Thanos, Captain America, Black Widow, War Machine, Bruce Banner, Thor, Rocket, Nebula, and Captain Marvel boarded the Benatar and made their way to a planet nicknamed the Garden. As a daughter of Thanos, Nebula knew much about his plans, including where he would go once the mission was complete. Rocket then confirmed the location by matching the power surge that occurred on Earth during the snap with a similar event which occurred only 2 days earlier on a faraway planet. Once arrived, they found Thanos living as a solitary farmer in a humble shack, and easily captured him, cutting off his arm to remove the Infinity Gauntlet. Yet it was only after he was subdued that they learned the power surge they detected was Thanos using the stones to destroy the stones, thereby making his actions inevitable and unalterable. Enraged and seeing no more use for him, Thor beheaded Thanos without warning, and the Avengers returned home in defeat. Over the next 5 years, many struggled to move on with their lives, including several of the Avengers like Black Widow, who took over leadership of their organization, using operatives like Okoye and War Machine to police the Earth, while Rocket, Nebula, and Captain Marvel dealt with threats in space. However, since the decimation, major threats against the planet were no longer presenting themselves, and so the team was reduced to investigating common criminals. After meeting with a support group, Steve Rogers visited Natasha at the Avengers headquarters, and so the two were together when Scott Lang appeared at the front gate. Having disappeared 5 years earlier, everyone assumed Ant-Man was another victim of Thanos. However, he was actually on a mission in the quantum realm during the snap, and became stranded when his girlfriend Hope Van Dyne and both her parents were called. However, after their equipment spent time languishing in storage, a rat randomly walked over the controls of the quantum tunnel, accidentally powering the machine and extracting Scott Lang. Confused and terrified, Scott thankfully found his daughter still alive, and learning about what occurred, made his way to the Avengers headquarters, where he presented the idea of creating a time machine to move through the quantum realm, allowing them to steal the Infinity Stones from moments in the past, and use them to return all those lost in the snap. Needing someone to build this machine, they brought the idea to Tony Stark, but he deemed it too risky and turned them down, as he now had a wife and young daughter who took priority. They next went to Bruce Banner, who had changed significantly after spending 18 months in a gamma lab, combining his two selves into a single personality. Although he agreed to help them, he struggled with the project as it was not his area of expertise, but they were soon joined by Tony Stark, who despite his initial disinterest, created a working model for time travel in his spare time, and with the blessing of his wife Pepper Potts, joined his former comrades for one last mission. Calling together the last of the Avengers, Captain America, Black Widow, Iron Man, Ant-Man, Hulk, War Machine, Rocket, and Nebula soon arrived, but bringing Thor and Hawkeye proved more difficult. Though he was eventually convinced to join them, Thor blamed himself for all that happened, and after years of depression was now out of shape and emotionally unstable. Hawkeye was also severely affected by the snap, losing his wife and 3 kids, and in his grief turned to violence, becoming the ruthless killer Ronin who targeted criminals he felt did not deserve to survive the decimation. After years of searching, Natasha Romanoff found him in Tokyo, Japan, after he massacred dozens to reach a gang leader. Given hope that he might bring back his family, Hawkeye returned to the Avengers and volunteered for the initial test run when Scott Lang grew hesitant. Though some of the Avengers were confused about how time travel worked, they soon learned that their own past was fixed and could not be altered. Even if they changed things in the past, it would not affect their own history, but instead create a divergent timeline. And so their mission was to travel to specific moments in the past and steal the 6 Infinity Stones in order to take them to 2023, where they could be used to bring back all those lost 5 years earlier. Eventually, the Avengers also realized that in order to prevent the loss of the stones from creating 6 alternate timelines, they also had to return the stones to their proper place in history once the mission was complete. After a successful test run, the Avengers split into 3 teams. The first, which included Iron Man, Captain America, the Hulk, and Ant-Man, went to the Battle of New York in 2012, where they could take the Space and Mind Stone from S.H.I.E.L.D. custody, while the Time Stone was being held by the Ancient One in the New York Sanctum for Masters of the Mystic Arts. Team 2, with Thor and Rocket, went to Asgard in 2013 during the Second Dark Elf conflict, when the Reality Stone, or Ether, was in the possession of Jane Foster, who was staying in the Royal Palace. The final team, comprised of Black Widow, Hawkeye, Nebula, and War Machine, went to 2014 when the Power Stone was still on the planet Morag and the Soul Stone was on Vormir. Using a quantum tunnel, advanced tech suits, and Pym particles, the Avengers began Operation Time Heist, successfully launching themselves through the quantum realm to arrive at their intended destinations. The first team made it in time to see the end of the Battle of New York in 2012 and split up to secure the 3 stones. In the New York Sanctum, Bruce Banner negotiated the release of the Time Stone from the Ancient One, promising to return it when they were finished to prevent this moment from branching off into an alternate timeline. Though she initially refused, he convinced her by revealing that Doctor Strange, the man who would succeed the Ancient One as Sorcerer Supreme in the future, gave up the Time Stone to Thanos willingly, meaning this must all be part of a larger plan. While the Hulk secured the Time Stone, Steve Rogers was in Avengers Tower, capturing the Mind Stone by posing as a Hydra agent to gain the trust of those undercover within S.H.I.E.L.D. At the same time, Tony Stark and Scott Lang created a distraction in the lobby and stole the Space Stone, but in an instant their plan was undone when 2012 Hulk came barreling down the stairs, causing a crash that sent the Tesseract gliding across the room until it stopped in front of 2012 Loki, who, although under arrest, was able to simply pick it up, open a portal, and disappear. With 2 of the 3 stones secured, and only enough Pym particles for 1 more jump each, Captain America and Iron Man came up with a new plan, sending Ant-Man, the Hulk, and the 2 stones back to 2023, while they used the last of their Pym particles to go to a New Jersey military base in 1970, where Hank Pym, vials of his Pym particles, and the Space Stone were all present at the same time. Not only did they succeed in getting the stone, and more than enough vials to return home, both men saw figures from their past, with Tony speaking to his father, Howard Stark, and Steve seeing the love of his life, Peggy Carter, who he lost when he was frozen in ice. Meanwhile, on Asgard in 2013, Team 2 secured the Reality Stone with little difficulty, though Rocket did the work extracting the ether from Jane Foster, while Thor had a panic attack and spent his time being comforted by his mother Frigga before taking his hammer Mjolnir with him to the future. Venturing into the year 2014, the third team split up, with Black Widow and Hawkeye traveling to Vormir, where the Stone Keeper, formerly known as Red Skull, explained the cost of the Soul Stone was the life of the person you loved most. A soul for a soul. Being best friends and partners for decades, neither was willing to let the other die, and so they fought a duel over who would commit suicide so the other could claim the stone. Though it pained him deeply to survive, Black Widow was victorious and threw herself from the cliff. As all this occurred, War Machine and Nebula remained on Morag, where they took the Power Stone from an ancient temple and tried returning to 2023, but the daughter of Thanos did not make it back as a cybernetic implant malfunctioned, leaving her stranded in 2014. Worse still, this malfunction was a result of her memory network linking with her 2014 counterpart, who at this time was loyal to 2014 Thanos, meaning he now had access to all her memories, allowing him to learn about his future victory and their plan to undo his work. Realizing he now had an opportunity to counter their efforts, 2014 Thanos went to Morag and captured 2023 Nebula. Acquiring her vial of Pym particles, he and Ebony Maw focused on duplicating the serum, and then sent 2014 Nebula through the quantum realm to pose as her future self, thereby infiltrating the Avengers. With Operation Time Heist a success, the Avengers returned to 2023, only to learn that Natasha Romanoff was gone and could not be brought back, even with the Infinity Stones. Refusing to let her die in vain, they continued on with the mission, placing the stones on a new gauntlet. And while Thor wanted to be the one to wield its power, it went to the Hulk, as the stones gave off a lot of gamma radiation, which he had the best chance to survive. Though it nearly burned off his arm, the Hulk performed another snap, bringing back all those lost in the decimation without altering anything that occurred in the last 5 years. Yet they had no time to celebrate their victory, as 2014 Nebula now had access to their facility and reprogrammed the quantum tunnel to bring 2014 Thanos and his ship to join them in 2023. From the Sanctuary 2, Thanos opened fire and destroyed Avengers headquarters, trapping and injuring many of the people within. He then made his way to the ground, sent 2014 Nebula to secure the Infinity Stones, and sat waiting for a confrontation with the Avengers. Answering his summons, Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor, armed with both Stormbreaker and Mjolnir, soon arrived and spoke to the Mad Titan, who thanked them for demonstrating the flaw in his plan. Clearly, eliminating half the population would not work, because those who survived could not look past what they lost to see what they gained. And so his new plan was to reduce the universe to atoms, and remake it with new life forms that had no knowledge of what occurred in the past. Meanwhile, back on the Sanctuary 2, 2014 Gamora, unwilling to be part of a genocide, betrayed her father and freed 2023 Nebula. The two then found 2014 Nebula and killed her to take back the Infinity Stones, which she acquired from Hawkeye, who mistook her for an ally. Though the three Avengers confronting Thanos soon engaged in an epic battle, he proved too powerful and was even on the verge of killing Thor, though he was saved at the last second by Captain America, now wielding Mjolnir as well as his vibranium shield. While he put up a valiant struggle, Captain America was also overpowered, leaving them on the brink of defeat. Thanos then enacted the final part of his plan, using his duplicated Pym particles to bring in the entirety of his Chitauri, Outrider, Sakharin, and Black Order army from the past. Threatening to take the stones and wreak havoc upon the planet, Captain America stood to face the enemy alone, but was soon joined by a massive army of allies. Since the Hulk was successful in bringing back those lost in the original snap, Doctor Strange and the Masters of the Mystic Arts went to work creating portals to bring all the scattered Avengers and their allies to New York, where they would help confront Thanos in the Battle of Earth. In addition to Doctor Strange, Wong, and the rest of the Mystic Arts practitioners, they were joined by the people of Wakanda, the Ravagers, and the Asgardians, as well as the extended Avengers team, including Black Panther, Okoye, Shuri, Falcon, Drax, Mantis, Groot, Star-Lord, Spider-Man, the White Wolf, Valkyrie, Korg, Meek, Scarlet Witch, Wasp, and Pepper Potts, wearing the rescue armor gifted to her by Tony Stark. As they gathered, the Hulk, War Machine, Rocket, Nebula, 2014 Gamora, and Hawkeye emerged from the rubble and joined the fight, as did Ant-Man, who transformed into Giant Man. With the Avengers assembled, the two armies charged into one another, and a chaotic battle erupted. However, the core of the conflict remained with the Infinity Stones, as Thanos needed to find them and wield their power, while the Avengers needed to get them to their last quantum tunnel in Ant-Man's van, so they could be returned to their proper places in the timeline. Unfortunately, the van was deep in enemy territory, and so Hawkeye began the journey by carrying the gauntlet part of the way, and when he could go no further, passed it to Black Panther, then going to Spider-Man, who was soon picked up by Pepper Potts and Valkyrie. As they moved with the stones, Thanos engaged in a duel against Scarlet Witch, who was quickly gaining the upper hand, and so the Mad Titan ordered his ship to begin firing on the battlefield, creating a distraction which he exploited to win the fight. Although the Masters of the Mystic Arts created shields to help protect their allies, the barrage of fire inflicted heavy casualties and threatened to kill them all, until Captain Marvel at last arrived to join the fight, using her cosmic energy to tear a hole directly through the Sanctuary 2, destroying the ship in mere moments. She then flew down, and after taking possession of the gauntlet, became surrounded by the female Avengers, Scarlet Witch, Valkyrie, Okoye, Pepper Potts, Mantis, Shuri, Wasp, 2014 Gamora, and Nebula, who helped her tear her way through enemy ranks to reach the quantum tunnel. Yet their efforts were not enough, as Thanos destroyed the van with his sword, creating a blast that sent the gauntlet flying, allowing him to take it and wield its power. Though Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America tried to stop him, he quickly defeated them before facing Captain Marvel in single combat. Quickly losing ground in the struggle, Thanos was able to pull the Power Stone from the gauntlet, and used it to punch his enemy with such force, she was launched far away and taken out of the battle. With Thanos about to win once again, Tony Stark looked to Doctor Strange, who seemed to indicate it was time to act, and so he launched himself against the gauntlet, but rather than try and take it, he instead stripped the stones from their place. Though he was quickly batted away, Iron Man now had the stones and integrated them into his suit, allowing him to perform a final snap to bring them victory. Using the stones, he eliminated the enemy army, but the effort required so much energy, Tony Stark collapsed and died in the arms of his wife, while the Chitauri, Outriders, Sakarans, and Black Order disintegrated into dust all around them. Seeing his army vanishing, Thanos looked on in utter disbelief, before seeming to accept his defeat, sitting down for a final moment of peace and quiet before he too was called. Though all those who died in the snap were alive once more, some few remain lost to them, like 2018 Gamora and 2023 Black Widow, who died for the Soul Stones, as well as 2018 Loki and Heimdall, who died in the attack for the Space Stone, 2018 Vision, who died for the Mind Stone in the Battle of Wakanda, and 2014 Nebula, who died in the final battle. Although 2014 Gamora disappeared after the fight, her ultimate fate was unknown. Among those who survived and were now alive in 2023, there was Captain America, the Hulk, Hawkeye and his family, Thor, Valkyrie, Korg, Meek, the White Wolf, Scarlet Witch, War Machine, Falcon, Ant-Man, the Wasp, Hank Pym, Janet Van Dyne, Doctor Strange, Wong, Black Panther, Okoye, Shuri, Drax, Mantis, Groot, Rocket, Star-Lord, Nebula, Spider-Man, Pepper Potts, Captain Marvel, Maria Hill, and Nick Fury. After Tony Stark's funeral, the Avengers and their allies went their separate ways, with Thor joining the Guardians of the Galaxy on their adventures, leaving his people on Earth in the charge of Valkyrie, who was named the Queen of New Asgard. In order to keep their promise to the Ancient One, Bruce Banner, Sam Wilson, and Bucky Barnes gathered to watch Steve Rogers enter the Quantum Realm on a mission to return the Infinity Stones and Hammer Mjolnir to their proper locations in the timeline. However, Captain America had a secret plan of his own and did not intend to return, only revealing his true intentions to his childhood friend Bucky Barnes. Worried that something went wrong, the Hulk and Falcon grew concerned until they found Steve Rogers as an old man sitting nearby. After returning the stones, Steve decided to remain behind in the 1940s, where he likely married Peggy Carter and together had a long and happy life. Only when that life was reaching its end did he return to 2023, where he presented his vibranium shield to Sam Wilson, naming him the new Captain America. Although the Avengers defeated Thanos and restored the lives of all those lost in the original snap, their journey through time resulted in unforeseen circumstances, which may have created a number of divergent timelines, despite their efforts to minimize such occurrences. Though Captain America returned the Infinity Stones, and perhaps Mjolnir as well, their failure in 2012 led to a new future for that timeline, where Loki was able to make off with the Space Stone. Another alternate timeline was created in 2014, when Thanos, Nebula, and Gamora traveled to 2023 and never returned. There was also the theft of Pym particles in 1970, which may have caused another divergence, and of course, the final actions of Captain America, who possibly created yet another alternate timeline, when he went back to his life in the 1940s. A special thanks to all those who contribute to CivilizationEx, like Oberyn Naga of Silvernest, Uther Lightbringer, Jack the Lionheart, and Darin of House Ashford. If you'd like to help CivilizationEx, click on the Patreon link, and please be sure to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and click on the links to see more.